So welcome everyone. My name is Satya Dhaliwal. I'm the marketing manager here at Perfect Portal. And today I am very pleased to have Mike as well as Martin from Legal Mentors, who will be discussing how to convert more leads into sales. I will pass it on to Michael and Martin so we can get on with this webinar.
Hi, good morning everybody.
Welcome everybody. It's Mike here. Legal Mentors, just to introduce ourselves. Martin and I are the directors of Legal Mentors, and we have worked exclusively with law firms and conveyancers for the past 12 years. And we don't work in any other industry, so we have a fair idea of what's going on in the legal sector. And certainly as far as conveyancing is concerned, there's quite a lot going on, or perhaps not so much going on, in that the market seems to be pretty sluggish, and it's rumoured that number of transactions is something like 30% down on previous years. So I guess it's important that you take every opportunity to convert more of the inquiries that you actually receive. And then we roll into that Brexit uncertainty. Maybe that will dissipate shortly and the market pick up, but here goes.
Okay, so just to introduce what we're going to be talking about, the two main areas. The first one is not unsurprising about pricing and service transparency. And we'll be thinking about the idea that now there's transparency, is it a good time to adopt new pricing, actually improve your profitability? And secondly, how to convert more inquiries into profitable business. Those inquiries come in and they're handled in certain ways by people who answer the phone. How is that happening at the moment? And there's some ways in which we help our clients to improve the conversion rate so that money isn't left on the table and more clients go, yes, I'll choose you.
Right, well, there's no doubt that firms have been through a bit of a challenge with the new transparency regulations, but I think most firms have got there now, certainly as far as pricing is concerned. Although I do actually come across one or two firms looking at their websites where I still can't find anything with regard to pricing and service and transparency. And the SRA, of course, announced a few days ago that it is going to sample some 500 firms initially to see whether they are complying, because the rules are quite different. And I have to say that firms have adopted many, many different approaches to this. Whilst pricing transparency is fairly clear, what is less clear in many instances is the service that clients can expect. And that's something that we need to look at, I think. It's not just about price, it's about service as well.
Now, with most products, there's a relationship between price and quality. And if the only thing that our prospective customers can see is price, maybe they'll just make the decision based on price. They don't really connect the fact that really cheap work can't be as good as work that is more valuable because people are putting more effort into it because they can afford to. So there is, in most markets, there is, if you think of it, there's watches you can buy for £12, or you can buy Rolexes and so on for many thousands of pounds. There's inexpensive cars and expensive cars. And in any market, there's the low price and the high price. But it's not just to do with that, it's to do with the quality, and there will always be people who will prefer to move up on that scale because they want quality rather than something cheap. If you don't point out the quality of your service, then people will think, oh, it's just about price, because they'll have no other information. So one of the main themes that we're going to be talking about today is it's not just pricing transparency, it's also quality of service. What about percentages here, Mike? Because sometimes if you increase your price, you can actually look at the value that you get in your profit.
Absolutely right, Martin. Many of our client firms have actually taken the opportunity of pricing transparency to increase their pricing, and I applaud them. It might not be realized that actually if you're making a margin of something, let's call it just in round numbers, 30% on your conveyancing work, and you increase your price by 10%, that it's actually not until your sales fall by 25% that you become less profitable. So actually, if you're making margin of 30%, you increase your price by 10%, and your sales fall by 10%, for example, you're going to be significantly more profitable than you are now. So putting up your pricing can be a way to really higher profitability, provided you know how to promote and sell your service.
As we work with firms, very often we see some what we would call misconceptions about pricing amongst people who have to answer the phone or be in contact with prospective clients. There's very often a sort of assumption that clients want a cheap price. Now, as we've just discovered, that's not necessarily the case. Some do, and we have to work out whether or not we want to service those clients at a low price when we haven't got much margin to do a good job. Clients don't want to spend time talking to me. There's this feeling that sometimes, well, conveyancers particularly are really busy and they're hardworking and they don't want to be interrupted, and sometimes the feeling when an incoming call comes along is that it's best just to answer their questions and get them off the phone, because clients don't want to spend time talking to me. Actually, people do want a good excuse to choose a firm, so a better conversation is worthwhile. Another misconception is that because clients can only think of one thing to ask about the transaction, which is the price, that it's okay just to quote that and then put the phone down. This, of course, is in addition to any online work that they may do to find out the price. But in reality, surveys have shown that fewer than 20% of clients say they chose the cheapest conveyancer. So cheap isn't what most people want, and does give us an opportunity to have a good, profitable price, as long as we come across with a value which is to do with talking about our service levels.
What clients are actually looking for is value, and indeed in anything that we buy in life, we consider value, whether it be in the supermarket or any other form. You buy a car. You buy a car for £10,000 or £200,000. It's the value is the perception of the client, not the supplier. It's in the client's mind, and as Martin just said, surveys suggest that fewer than 20% of clients actually want cheap. So that leaves a huge market for you to consider value and the client. In a recent survey, it was said that 55% of people were frustrated by the lack of communication, and that's a service issue. And 70% of those clients wanted more regular updates. Communication has come out as in a number of surveys over the years as a big frustration for clients. So what clients want, and you need to find ways of updating your clients on a more regular basis. Perfect Portal could well be an excellent tool for you to do that.
See, Mike, when you were talking about cars, the thing about cars, you can go and see it and drive it and experience it, and you go, wow, this is a really quality car, it's worth that much. Where you're buying a professional service like this that's going to be delivered in the future, it's more difficult for prospective clients to assess that.
It is absolutely right, Martin, I agree. We'll talk about that shortly. So what can we do?
Well, it's about being different. It's coming across with some reasons for people to choose you. So you must know and promote what we've called your service points. Here's a bit of a list. Sorry, it's a bit of a list, but anyway. Your qualifications. Are your people qualified? Well, of course, all lawyers, I hope, and conveyancers are qualified, but do we say so? Are you keen to do the work? Very often the communication that happens, particularly if you're using a computer-based system, it's quite difficult to get across the fact that you're really keen to help them. When you're on the phone to them, then there's the opportunity to come across with that enthusiasm. How often will you communicate with people, and how? Some people will want emails, some people will want telephone calls, some may need texts. So that's another service point that you can mention to them in order to differentiate yourself. You may have a dedicated contact in the firm, which is another plus point to be mentioned. How much experience have you got? particularly when someone is buying a house in a local area to your office. A big real differentiator is the fact that you're there. You understand that particular area. There might be things, special searches that need to take place about mining and one thing or another in certain areas, and that's all. You have the opportunity to talk about those, to say, look, we really know our local area, and we can help you move house safely. People who inquire about conveyancing don't really have very much of a view of what might go wrong with the cheap conveyancing on someone who doesn't have the right qualifications or do have enough money to do a thorough job. What's your client satisfaction rating? Do you measure that? Do you publicise it? Most firms have lots of letters that they file away diligently in files and filing cabinets, saying how happy clients are with the service they've received. Well, now's the time to get those out again, count them, and make a big thing of it, and say, it's okay to, dare I use that terrible term, to big yourself up. It's okay, as long as it's true, it's okay to say, look, we're really good at this. 89% of our clients say they would recommend us to their friends and family and so on. Now, many of these things aren't unique, because hopefully many of your fellow conveyancers will have qualifications and have experience and so on, but in the main, our experience with mystery shopping is that people just don't talk about that. So you'll be different just by coming over with some of these points, reasons to help people choose you.
So next we're going to look at how you might convert more inquiries into profitable new instructions. Well, it's the way you handle the work, and I want you to consider also, as we go through this, value as well. So, Martin.
Okay, so the challenge for conveyancers is, this is a quote, I'll put it all on the screen, by, remember, we know the Bold Legal Group, very useful service for conveyancers, and one of the members said this. This is just a solicitor, it's not a consultant or anyone like that. It's not good enough to offer your services. Firms need to promote, and dare we use that word, sell their services to continue to be successful. So this is about communication skills, about soft skills. No matter how good your conveyancing is, you need really to spend some time thinking about how to come across, to tell people how good you are, and to give them a good reason to choose you rather than someone else. And in this, what looks like something of a shrinking market, let's hope it's only temporary, but if inquiries are down, you must convert more of those inquiries into business just to stand still, let alone to grow. So it's an essential element of running a business that you have this ability to convert inquiries into work.
Well, the quote is all they need. Well, we do a lot of mystery shopping for firms and prospective clients, and
with their permission.
With their permission. And it's fair to say that in the majority of instances, most firms don't want to talk about price on the telephone. That may be a conscious decision. It may be because people don't feel comfortable. I don't know. But what often happens is they take an email address and say that they'll email a quote out to us with no mention of what their service covers. It's just price driven. And sadly, no follow-up either. In the majority of cases, more than 60% of cases, probably 70 or 80% of cases actually, to be honest, there's no follow-up. So the work is done, the conversation is had in the sense of the way it's conducted now. An email is prepared and a quote put together, and normally, to be fair, that comes out pretty quickly, but it is just, service is just price driven, and the client has no idea, other than price, what you're offering. And then, having spent all that time putting it together, there's no follow-up. So, keep calm and do nothing? Well, no. The fact of the matter is, that if you want more instructions, and I guess that's why you've dialed in today or listening in the webinar today, that you want more instructions. So I would suggest that doing nothing is not an option. Unless, of course, you just want more of the same. But in a shrinking market, the cake is much smaller. Your costs don't change unless you make some conscious decisions to reduce numbers, and I don't anticipate and want that to happen for anybody. But you've got to win more of the opportunities that come your way to retain the income levels, income levels and profitability that the firm needs. So we have to do better.
And we've got the an extra logo for Perfect Portal here because it is complementary to what we're talking about here, because when people go onto a website and get online information, obviously they get the price and other information they can put in, and that's a big step forward, and the firm that uses Perfect Portal can then track that inquiry through and take action to it. But our suggestion is that people very often need an extra little push to make their decision, because at the end of the day, if they've got 5 or 6 quotes, how do they choose what to choose? Well, it's really to do with being different. It's adding on to that technology by taking action, and that action should be something that is different from the others. As Mike says, mostly when we phone up with mystery shopping to get conveyancing quotes, we get asked a few questions and sent a quote, and it's in many cases it's nicely formatted and it's got all the information, but it doesn't differentiate that firm from any of the others. Whereas if you're going to pick up the phone, talk to someone, because people like to buy from people, then it's a differentiator which will help the prospective client to actually choose you, because people like to have a reason to make their decision. So to be different from all the others is a competitive advantage. It gives prospects a real reason to choose you.
Absolutely, Martin, yes. Well, this is what most firms look like, sorry to say, but they're actually a leaking bucket. They put a lot of money into marketing and business development. That goes into the bucket at the top, but they're failing to convert many of those opportunities that come their way. And so they're leaking revenue. And the more offices you have, the more money you're leaking every day and every week. And if we can stem those leaks, well, that will help us stemming the leaks by converting more of those opportunities that come our way. We'll get a much better return on our investments in marketing and business development.
So each new inquiry isn't a nuisance or inconvenience. Very often when incoming calls come in, people are busy and they perhaps don't spend quite as much time in interacting with the prospective client. Just think about how much people want to have a relationship rather than just a price. So it is something that it's worth spending some time on, because by spending, what should we say, 5, perhaps even 10 minutes getting a piece of work, that's more productive than just doing conveyancing all the time, that same amount of time. So if we can convert more of those inquiries, it really pushes up our opportunities to stay steady or even increase our activities and our growth. And the income pays salaries, and that's what we want. So it's, each new inquiry isn't a nuisance or an inconvenience. It has cost money to generate, because you've got marketing activities, business development activities, brochures, maybe you sponsor things, maybe there's a website. So it's a potentially valuable new instruction which has profit built into it, hopefully, as well as activity. Answering the phone isn't an administration role, it's business development. And it really is ours to win or lose. Very often when we do these mystery calls, I don't know, it just doesn't come across that someone's really enthusiastic and keen to do the work. They're more interested in sending an email quote out. But this is gold dust. You know, most organizations that aren't solicitors dream of having incoming inquiries with no sales effort. How brilliant would that be? They think it's fabulous. They have to spend a lot of money on a sales force in order to generate interest and get prospective customers. Solicitors have this need-driven business where someone external to the organization has to do something which requires their services, so they phone up. So don't waste the opportunity. Let's say, well, who knows what the average is across the profession, but what is the average conversion rate? 30%, 25%?
25 to 30.
25 to 30%. So that's 70% go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that's a huge amount of loss when they've made the effort to phone you up in the first place or to go onto your website and get a quote. So trying to interact with prospective clients and helping them is a great way to get them to choose you. So each inquiry could be worth what? £600, £800, £1,000. It's not just an inquiry; it's a huge amount of money and work and employment and success and growth and salaries.
It could even be twice that, of course, because many transactions are a sale and a purchase, and that opportunity is often missed. In fact, Martin made some mystery shopping calls yesterday for some work we've got coming up. And whilst the opportunity was identified early in the conversation, it was then completely overlooked.
Yeah, because I said I was selling my house and buying another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all I got was a quote for the one that I'm going to buy.
So there was probably something like £800 or so left on the table, what was there on offer. When we say it's not an admin role, what we really mean is it doesn't have to be a senior role. It can be a role that's carried out on an admin level, but it needs somebody who's been trained in how to handle these calls. It really is important. These opportunities are actually your future income. And so it's a very, very important role, selling or sales. And I know that's, as Martin said earlier, that's not a word that law firms like to hear very much. But you know, we've got to be honest about this. This is what this is all about. It's all about attracting clients and converting them. So you do need to learn some skills and some very simple and basic sales techniques, soft skills that will help you to win the business. And that will become more and more prevalent. It's quite usual now for London firms to actually have a sales team. So it is coming into the marketplace. The firms that get their head around this quicker, then the better they will do, and they will steal a march on the opposition. But nobody is talking about hard selling or anything like that. It's just gentle selling, and we'll talk about helping the client to buy shortly.
Well, who didn't? So we need to help them decide. You know, it's a decision, and prospective clients are looking for reasons to choose you. Let's say that there's a decision to make here, and the prospective client has phoned 5 organisations and got 5 prices. Well, how do they decide anyway? If it's just about price, do I choose the cheapest? All you need is for one of those to be more interested or more responsive, or to spend a little bit more time on the phone and create a bit more rapport for them to say, I'll choose that firm. Because you can't judge quality if you don't tell them about the value. So what is it that makes your service different? What are your service points?
Well, we talked about those earlier, and they'll be different for every firm. So it's very important that you as a team think about what your service points are, and then use them in your material on your website, and importantly, when you're handling inquiries over the telephone as well, and also include them in the email that goes out accompanying the quote, because very often nothing is mentioned about these sorts of things at all, and it just therefore leaves the client with the only option of making a decision based on price. And we keep coming back to this. We've got to find other ways to help clients to choose us on ways other than price alone, because that's only a downward spiral. And you all want better returns for the work that you're putting in. So include, once you've worked them out, what your service points are, And it's certainly not a prescriptive list that we came up with earlier, but you'll work it out, whether that's that you're open one day a week, one night a week later, whether your lines are open from 8 in the morning till 6 at night, or whatever it is. But, and some of the examples that Martin mentioned earlier. You've just got to help clients. You've got to be seen to be different, and your service to be different, and help clients to choose you rather than somebody else.
Yeah, so that conversation isn't just about price.
No.
We do an exercise when we are with workshops with our clients, law firms, and we say to them, how would you choose an IFA? Now, it's an interesting exercise. We first say, well, let's assume you don't know one and you haven't got any friends who know them. So what would you do in order to try to choose someone you don't know who is a professional advisor? And here's some of the answers, and this is roughly the order they usually come in. Let's first of all, people say, well, I don't know, I'd have to find out if I can trust them. Have they got a good track record? Do they do the sort of work that I've got? Let's assume that I've got 5 million to invest. People usually smile when we tell them they're going to inherit 5 million. Do they handle my kind of work? Is it the right level? Have they got qualifications, or are they just making it up as they go along? Is there a safety net if something goes wrong? Will I lose my money? Are they fair value? Notice not price, but value. Because price is always in the context of what I'll receive in return. Do they really understand what I want? Can I get on with them? Is it someone that I can trust? And can we work together successfully? All those things come out first, but not price. Usually, it's just the last thing that anyone wants, because they want to know if they can trust them. And it's important to notice there that those are the sort of things we should be mentioning as service points ourselves. So what happens now?
Well, we mentioned that we mystery shop firms, and we do on a regular basis. And we're asked a few very basic questions. Are you buying or selling? Perhaps sometimes, are you buying and selling? How much? Is it leasehold or is it freehold? Is there a mortgage? What's your name? Are you buying with somebody else? And then more or less, sometimes we cover the SDLT issue by talking about principal residence. Are you exchanging one principal residence for another? Do you have an email address? Okay, well, we'll send you a quote. And if you're interested, give us a call. It actually feels a bit like an interrogation. It doesn't feel very welcoming or friendly. It's just a fact find. And really often feel like want to get us off the phone quicker than we would really like, without developing any rapport or understanding of really what the transaction's all about and what my timescales are. So what you need to do is really understand what it is the clients want, and so that needs so you need to focus on the quality of your work, your service, your expertise, and the value of what you do, and not simply price. As we said earlier, only 20% or fewer than 20% of clients actually chose the cheapest conveyancer. People are willing to pay a little more. I'm not saying price is not important and an important consideration, because it is, but people are less price driven than most firms think they are. But the trouble is that firms only tend to sell on price, and thereby the client has little option but to choose on price, because there is no difference between their service, or apparently no difference is made.
Okay, so we've developed a 6-step approach to building trust towards that yes from the prospective client. It's a step-by-step process which we help our clients to understand. And just very briefly, it covers, by the way, the initial contact is so important. First impressions count an awful lot. How the phone's answered, whether it's cheerful, whether it's quick, whether you're passed on quickly to someone who can answer the questions. Someone's perhaps anxious at this point, don't really know what's going on. So it's okay to ask questions of the prospective customer about things like why they're moving, where they're moving to, are there any, is there a special timescale that they're trying to achieve, and so on. Then there's capability and reassurance, because we're coming back to these service points. Tell them you can do the job, you've got the experience. Then we talk about quality and how good your advice is, and it's high value because it's carefully thought out and with a lot of experience behind it. Then there's a step that seems never to happen, which is just to go, how about we go ahead? The sooner you can, the sooner we start, the sooner we can get you in your new home. No one answers that. They're afraid of someone will say no. So the question is never asked. In some cases, if you've had a good opportunity to build rapport and to talk about your capability and quality, then people will go, oh, okay, let's go ahead. And if they don't go ahead at that stage, then certainly follow up quickly and with a friendly attitude and handle any objections, which might be about price or it might be other things, but that reflects the ability to talk to someone and in a gentle way persuade them of your quality and the fact that you can help them move into their new home quickly. It's a process, it's something that works, it's been proven time and time again. And we had one example recently where someone tried this in our workshop. In a couple of days' time, they actually tried to close, particularly, and invite the client to go ahead. And the client did, just then and there, on the phone, and they're absolutely delighted. And it does work. If you don't ask for the business, then it's very unlikely that you'll get it, certainly there and then. So that's our approach to encouraging people to say yes to you on the phone and convert those 30, 40, 50% of inquiries that you're losing at the moment into real business.
While you've got somebody on the phone, that's your real opportunity to get to that yes. So by following that process, what we're talking about is actually, it feels more like a conversation than an interrogation. If you can get that conversation flowing, you'll build rapport with the client and understanding and mentioning some of your service and selling points, and they are far more likely to instruct you because they feel more comfortable in dealing with you and don't really want to go elsewhere. So your price might be higher than somebody else's, but the fact is that you've shown some interest, you've established some rapport with them, and you've shown a real interest in wanting to work with them to help them to achieve their goals.
It's a well-known saying in sales, anyway, that people like to buy from people. And if you've got some personality on the phone, you show some interest, you're keen to help them, they're much more likely to choose you than someone who just sends an email out. So I'm going to put some numbers on the screen now for you just to consider, but what I need you to look at is, or think about, is your own numbers as such. I've just chosen a fairly easy number. If you were to win just 3 more new conveyancing instructions a week, and I've only taken, to keep it simple, a single transaction and not a joint transaction, and assuming your average fee on this instance is £850, you will know how many new instructions you would like to attract a week, could attract a week, win. You will know what your average fee is, so you can input your own numbers here. Okay, and we've said that if 50 weeks, because it keeps it easy in round numbers, then doing the maths, 3 instructions, average fee times 50 weeks, that would produce, well, there we are, £127,500 of new income. And actually, because you have that capacity to handle more inquiries, that's why you're with us today, because you want more business, your costs don't actually go up, so that more or less flows through to the bottom line. But yeah, as I say, you can do the maths for your own firm.
So effective training in inquiry handling, and we'd like to think that our training is very effective, will result in more new instructions, higher value instructions, very importantly. Why wouldn't you want to attract higher value instructions for much the same amount of work? Therefore, more fee income, often with no increase in costs. More fees equals higher profits.
And what do higher profits mean, Mike?
Well, more money to invest in the business, employing people, paying salaries.
Always popular.
Very popular, Martin, yes. And maybe a bonus or two occasionally.
Anyway, so just talking about the training for a moment. The training that we do is always bespoke to each individual clients because firms are individuals, obviously. It's in-house. It's rather, people tell us it's interactive and rather fun because we do a lot of case studies and role plays and examples and get everyone thinking about how best to handle these inquiries. And the investment in this training pays for itself very rapidly, possibly within a month, and thereafter continues month after month. So it's a very worthwhile investment for improving the performance of the firm. Actually, it turns out that when people receive this sort of training, they feel more successful as well because they're getting more yeses, and it gives them a boost to their confidence. So we'd like to hand back to Satu now to talk about Perfect Portal. But meanwhile, thank you for listening, and I hope we've given you some ideas about how to convert more inquiries at a higher rate of profit.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mike and Martin. If you have any questions, you can see the bar at the very bottom of your screen. Please feel free to type in. I will only take 2 minutes just to go over what Perfect Portal is, because again, the system is there to help you win more business, to help you convert more leads to sales. It's not a lead generation tool, but it helps you optimize on every inquiry coming in, whether it's through your website, through phone, inbound phone or emails, or even through your referral network. It helps you work more efficiently. And again, it just replaces a lot of those manual tasks that your staff have to do outside of actually completing the work, completing the conveyancing work. So these are just few features of the system. We have our website calculators, because that's quite popular at the moment for transparency side. It helps you respond quickly and accurately because you are able to allocate fees to different quote questions, different postcodes, different matter types. So at the end of the day, the client gets an accurate quote, whether they go on your website or call you directly. We have branded emails and quotes because first impressions do count. Customers are shopping around, and you want to make sure your brand is present throughout. From when they visit your website, get a quote, get that email, or even, when you do a follow-up email, include your staff photos in there. Like, Mike and Martin mentioned earlier, as a firm, you invest a lot of money and time in developing that brand, but you need to make sure that you show it across the entire journey, from first inquiry or even visit to your website throughout to completion. We have apps for your clients. Like they mentioned, a lot of clients are frustrated with lack of communication or being able to track the progress of their case. We have apps for your clients so they can do that on their own, self-serve that information, because again, they're not available 9 to 5. They are busy with their own work. They want to look at the progress in the evenings or the weekend. We also have app for your referrer, so they can send you quotes and leads directly that go into your system. So rather than them having to call you, again, you taking a day, 2 days to reply and sending a quote to their inquiry that they sent you, if you take more time, then they're not going to send you business. This is a more efficient process. Again, it has all of your fees pulled through, and it lets the consumer get that instant information quickly. Again, we have smart dashboard and report, so you can drive business performance. A lot of the time, that's the first thing that firms notice is they're like, oh, we didn't know we were generating this amount of quotes per month, and that we're missing this opportunity. Within the first 3 months of using Perfect Portal, they double their conversions. And that is when they're using all aspects of the system. Again, you can buy into technology, but you need to invest your own time into technology to make sure it works for you. In summary, there's still plenty of opportunities, and opportunities that are actually knocking on your door, not new ones that you need to go and source out. And again, a lot of the time, that's what businesses end up doing, is investing money to get new leads, but not necessarily put the effort in to actually convert those leads. And like, you know, Mike and Martin mentioned earlier, less than 20% of home movers reflect on price because they actually want to see the value. Value is quite important to them. And this stat has been shown on many different studies, not just the ones, you know, that was done by Mike and Martin, but it's SRA's transparency study that they did a year ago, CLC, as well as the Age of a New Home Mover in 2018 that was done by InfoTrack. You know, consumers want to understand what each firm's offer and for the price that they're charging. And clients are now shopping around. They're getting 2 or more quotes. So you want to make sure you're quick, you're fast, and you can actually provide that clear service experience, not just the price, but what is it that you are willing to offer that client for that service and that experience. You know, that extra bit that you will go, the experience that your staff has, the added value, because that is quite important to the client. Because again, they're not experienced in this topic. They're, you know, they don't know, they don't understand conveyancing side because they think everyone seems the same, so they end up pricing as the last thing that they can compare on. But if you can stand out and you can demonstrate that you can provide that service experience for the value that you charge, then you will get that business. And growing your business doesn't have to be difficult. There are solutions and mentorship available that you can use to help your business grow. This is it from my end. And again, there are a lot of client testimonials from our end as well. You know, we are a system, it's a new business management system, complete system, so it helps you from all angles. It's not, you know, one size fits all, it's fully customizable, so it can work for your firm, whether you're just, you know, one person or you have multi-offices across the UK, our system can work for you. Now I'm going to take our time to answer a couple of questions. To see here if anyone has any questions. That was from before. Let me see here. And just wanted to, can you please email copy? Yes, we will email a copy of the presentation as well as the recording. How long should you leave it before following up on a quote, in your opinion? I will answer my end, yeah, sure. And then I will have Mike and Martin. It just depends. If you put yourself in consumer shoes, you know, when you're trying to find information, first thing we all do, it's, you know, quite normal. We pick up our phone, Google different things. If we don't find information, then we go to the next site. And if we have to wait, you know, sometimes 5 minutes seems like a long time, but if you have to wait 24 hours, 48 hours, that is way too long. You need to make sure that you follow up immediately, show that you care, show that you want their business, show that you want to help them straight away. As soon as you get the inquiry, if it's in the morning, you follow up straight away. Make sure that they're comfortable with everything. If they have any questions, again, they're not the experts in this, you are. And what about you, Mike and Martin?
Well, I think in the case where there's an online calculator and so on, if you can capture people's contact details, there's no reason not to phone them or text them or email them within 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
That's the same thing. I know someone just said, what about after a quote has been issued?
Yeah.
If it's issued via website, I would say within next 10, 15 minutes, because that is warm. They're on your website, and, you know, you are on their mind. Follow up straight away. Don't leave it for another day, because they might have visited 5 websites by then. You want to follow up straight away. That's what we do at Perfect Portal. When client visits our website, they download a brochure, we make sure that they're followed up straight away. And if it's towards the end of the day, then it's first thing in the morning. So you want to do it promptly, because that just kind of sets up expectations on how you're going to deal with their transaction when they do instruct you.
Why wait?
Yeah.
Why wait?
Well, the other thing here is that certainly when we do mystery shopping, too often, we're not even asked for a contact telephone number. So you can't follow up if you haven't got a telephone number. So always seek a telephone number. And if you don't get a yes whilst client is on the phone, and you will only get a yes if you ask, then once you've sent out that email, nicely branded if at all possible.
Will be with perfect.
Absolutely perfect, quite perfect. Then you must follow up promptly, and it's quite easy to follow up. You can just follow up well, ask the client when they would like you to call them, but importantly is you just ask. Just wanted to make sure that you've received it, that you understand it. Is there anything you need me to clarify? Shall we go ahead?
Yeah, simple as that. And someone asked about how much does Perfect Portal cost? A lot of firms actually get quite surprised at that because they feel like it'll be quite a bit, but it's not. With everything, that includes your client app, that includes your app for your referrer, your Perfect Portal for the firm, for the solicitor. For one user license, it's £100 a month, and that includes everything, ongoing training. But once you go from single license to multi-user, which is 2 to 5, it's $200 per month. So that's 5 users using the firm's portal, unlimited amount for client apps, unlimited amount of referrers, but that's $200 for 5 users. And if it's additional after 200, for example, if there's 7 users that a firm wants to have, fee earners, assistants, practice managers, for 7 users, it'd be 240. It's 20 per head after 5. So it's not 200 per user. It's 200 for multi-user license, which is up to 5 users. Then it's 20 per head going on. And then we don't charge additional for any setup, for training. And the system is quite simple and easy to use. That's what we wanted to make the system, something fun, something easy to use that you just it becomes your daily, kind of like your phone. You can't live without that. A system that you can't live without when you're doing your conveyancing work.
And that's an investment that will pay for itself because you're converting.
It's not even a one extra conversion per month.
Yeah. It's a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
It's not just a quote tool, Satu, is it? It's actually a tracking tool.
Yeah.
And you can track your conversion rates, you can monitor them, you can follow up with them, etc. And it's a tool that you can use to keep everybody in the picture.
Yeah. Just because following up on that question, Karen, it says, does the 200 include the quoting option on the website? Absolutely. Again, we actually didn't want to have separate things as different offerings. Everything is part of the package because we want to make sure you have absolutely best opportunity to make sure you optimize on every opportunity. So the website calculator, it's not one, it's multiple. So you can have different ones for different offices, different fee earners, because I know some people, they want to get a quote from a partner, not necessarily your conveyancing team. So, you can have as many as you like, and they're very easy to set up. They're one-line code, and you can have it either embedded on your web page or as a floating button. And then I have another one here from Mike and Martin. The question, do Mike and Martin believe having an online calculator takes away the ability to sell our services?
Well, no, not at all. I mean, as long as in that process, there's something about your differentiators or your service points as well. If it just sends out a price, it's a great step in the right direction, and you've got to do it now because of the new regulations for transparency. So you have to do that. But as long as you can configure it to come across with not just the price but also your service points.
Exactly. So I will touch base on that as well. With the quote calculator that the Perfect Portal offers, it's not just client putting in and then them just getting the quote. It's actually the firms can put different questions, the questions that they would ask if a phone inquiry were to come in, so the client gets the accurate quote. A lot of the times, if you have Google Analytics on your firm's website, you'll notice that the website traffic is in the evening or on the weekend. That's over 60% of the traffic in the legal industry is outside of legal firms' office hours. So consumers are looking for information outside of your work hours. So you want to make sure if you can provide that information, and the first thing you do in the morning is follow up, that's another opportunity. It's just additional opportunity than just answering a phone call and providing a quote over there.
So I think it's fair to say, Emma, that it supports your activity in selling your service, as you put it.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased you've used the word sell.
Then I have another one saying, is just a portal for quoting tool, or does the client get updates as the conveyancing progresses? So with our key stages, which is a feature of Perfect Portal, it's not just the client. You can update instantly with one simple click with different methods. Again, email, SMS, client app, all different parties with one click. So with our system, it's helping you become more efficient and make sure not just clients, but all parties get the updates throughout the progress. I know some of our firms, have 10 main key stages, but some love to update clients on every little thing, and they have up to 30. And to be honest, people love those updates because they're short, they're snappy, they're not, an email 20 paragraphs long. Because again, we have short attention span now, and it gives you the opportunity to follow up and give the updates in a way that the client wants, whether, again, like I mentioned earlier, email, SMS, or via app and online portal. If, again, someone asks about the copy of the presentation, we will send that across. I don't see any more questions. I know we are coming close to 1 p.m. That's a full hour. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And again, if you have any questions, our information is on the slide deck, and I will follow up, send a follow-up email later today or tomorrow. I just have to put everything together. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.